Okay, let's continue with the next study.
Okay, so the next study, and I'm getting it up on my screen, is titled The Impact of SARS-CoV-2 Infection on Vaccinated versus Unvaccinated Pregnant Women, a retrospective cohort study. Now, this was published in Springer Nature. This is significant. Springer is the largest academic and scientific publisher in the world. You were talking about censorship earlier. There have been scientists that have said in the last couple of years that Springer journals had censored them, but it seems that in the recent period, Springer and the editors of their journals have been more open to perspectives that are questioning in some way the vaccines and their safety. So 6 Spanish researchers were the co-authors of the study. It was published in April, so it's a recent study. And what this was is it's another retrospective study. It's similar to the Japanese study we just talked about, but with a larger sample. They looked at pregnant women, 156 of them, who tested positive for COVID-19 while they were pregnant between 2020 and 2022. Now, not all of these women were vaccinated. So you had 2 groups. They were all pregnant. They had all been infected with COVID during pregnancy, but only some of them had been vaccinated. Specifically, 45 out of the 156 were vaccinated. And what was found was, even though this was a strangely written study, we can talk about that, but what was found was that while there were 5 miscarriages among the group of unvaccinated women, which was 111 out of the 156 women, there were also that many miscarriages among the much smaller number of vaccinated women. So according to some analysts that looked at the study, I am quoting now Trial Site News, they call this a concerning anomaly, and especially because in the vaccinated women, most of the miscarriages happened in the first 2 trimesters, or in other words, the first 6 months of their pregnancies. So that's an interesting finding, and yet the authors of the study focused on these very limited positive outcomes of the vaccinated group, that they had lower rates of pneumonia, they had lower incidence of things like vomiting and headache, which are not really serious issues, but they kind of glossed over the miscarriages, which I thought was interesting.
Well, it seems so that we have serious concerns if there is a more benefit than harm in pregnant women. I had an interview also about Pfizer documents, and from their clinical trials, we saw the major part of pregnant women unfortunately lost their child during this test period, and nobody really want to investigate this, and they are still recommending vaccination against COVID-19 for pregnant women. I think we have here enough data to ask question, why don't we investigate this more? Because we always take care of pregnant women, and now we just so easily recommending something that doesn't bring them much benefit, as we see here from this paper.
Absolutely. If you look at what the CDC in the US is still saying on their website, quoting them exactly, COVID-19 vaccination during pregnancy is safe and effective, and they recommend getting the vaccine, quote, if you are pregnant, breastfeeding a baby, trying to get pregnant now, or might become pregnant in the future. So that's what the CDC is saying. What the Trial Site News is saying is that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in the US, still has not actually declared that the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines are safe on the package insert, the little piece of paper that comes in the package with any sort of medication, including the vaccines. Trial Site News also said that this unexpectedly high miscarriage rate that we saw in the vaccinated women, and we saw it early in their pregnancies, even though the numbers are limited, this is another small sample, cannot be dismissed without further research. So we're seeing another study where, in this case, the authors kind of ignored the miscarriages, but people that have analyzed the study are saying that the results show that this requires more research.